Hey Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good for a snowy Monday here in Virginia.
It's unbelievable, yeah, absolutely. I'm also in Virginia, so I'm with you, Amanda.
Yeah, no, people are coming in. It's snowing outside. And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking out the window and the sleet is pounding it. Good news, operations don't seem to be impacted here at Dulles. Aircraft are coming and going just the same.
And good morning, everybody. I think we're still waiting for some other participants to join. And I can see Mike and some of the colleagues from the Vertical Flight Society. Hey, Mike. Not sure if Danielle is already on.
Yep, she's here.
No, good, great.
I know she had some last minute things she was trying to pull together for the meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, welcome everybody. Sorry for the delay. We're having a couple technical difficulties here. Dom, if you could go ahead and make that bigger. Do you think you could well, that's good. That'll work. And we'll just wait for what you could do is you could download it as a PDF if you hit file. So the three of us that are running this meeting are all on different computers than we're usually on. So it was a little tricky, but we are so excited about today's meeting and having Arturo here to discuss hydrogen at the airport. You know, this is a topic that comes up in just about every monthly meeting is infrastructure and how's it going to work. And a lot of people don't think it's possible. You could go to full screen from there, Dom, although I'm not a Mac user, so.
But Rashab sharing.
Oh, Rashab. Okay, great. And so anyway, I just wanted to welcome everybody. Again, apologies for the delay on getting started. We will start today with some announcements from Mike Hirschberg. And if Mike is on, and you might not want to share your WhatsApp, we can all see your WhatsApp. Irshad, this is good. You guys get to see startup in real time. So this is cool. And yes, thank you all for having your cameras on. I can't get my webcam to work on this laptop, so no worries. It's a rocky start per usual, getting used to doing these large meetings. So whenever Mike is ready, he can hop in and talk about forum.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
So thanks, Danielle, for organizing the meeting. And just want to go back and say a few things. I think most of you, everybody hopefully is aware that, we have two different hydrogen groups. So this is the H2EVTOL Council, which has these regular kind of brown bag lunch seminars, depending where you are in the world. And trying to educate and build a community of interest of people who are interested and learning and enhancing their depth of knowledge of hydrogen. We also have the H2ERO team, which is a project-based effort that is looking to start a public-private partnership or lay the groundwork for standards and a PPP for hydrogen infrastructure for aerospace applications. We had our H2ERO workshop a few weeks ago. Seems like a long time ago, but it was the end of March. It was a really exciting meeting. We had over 100 people in person and another 36 online. A lot of really great presentations, including by some of the folks online here today. And we're working on an article on that, which will be online probably in the next week. Also, we recorded all the presentations, and if you're a VFS member, you get to, if you're a long-term VFS member, or if you've registered for that workshop, then you have membership. And you can go online, you can watch all the videos. We've made those available for free for any member and attendee for that workshop. So it's the same you can see the link from the same web page, vtol.org/H2 workshop. We're also going to be expanding some of our other offerings for hydrogen and try and bring those together more clearly for people to benefit from those. As Danielle mentioned, our next big meeting is the annual forum. That's in Fort Worth. That's live in person only. We don't have that much going on with hydrogen there. But of course, that is the big vertical flight technical conference of the year. We have a full day, actually a couple of days worth of presentations for electric VTOL. We also have a number of other events coming up. We have our electric aircraft symposium. Those people who are going to Oshkosh or would like to be there virtually, we're having that, which covers, again, eVTOL, eCTOL, and eSTOL. Then we'll have an infrastructure workshop in Dayton, Ohio, near Springfield, Ohio, on infrastructure, and that will also include a bit on hydrogen as well. So with that, again, thank you all for coming. Again, if you're not a VFS member, please join, and you can access so much more on vertical flight and hydrogen. All right, so back over to you, Danielle.
Thanks so much, Mike. And per usual, we always seem to be reading each other's minds because I'm going to reiterate a lot of what Mike said. Just going to kind of go through a quick overview of what the H2EVTOL Council is, and reiterate and reiterate that there are two hydrogen groups because there seems to have been some confusion around that. So go ahead to go to the next slide. And so, yeah, as Mike mentioned, we're so excited. Vertical Flight Society just had the first, and we had a picture of Anita on here, and I don't know where it went, but this is Anita Sarangupta's company, and somehow right where that cursor is, there was a picture of Anita, and we really wanted to highlight what she was doing in this space. Anita and I are the first two women hydrogen aviation startups, founders and CEOs. And so I'm just really excited about all of the stuff that Hydroplane has going on. She was at the in-person event. So lots of firsts. The first in-person hydrogen aviation event in the US ever. And one of the two first woman CEOs of a hydrogen aviation company was there also. And I do not know what happened to her picture. And I don't have time to go through all of this slide, but we'll definitely want to get Anita in on one of the upcoming presentations. But thanks for zooming in. This is, you can kind of skim through and see all of the exciting things that she's involved in. Brilliant woman, and was also on a show with William Shatner not too long ago. So definitely give that a look. So, thank you, Anita, for participating in our events. We love having you. You bring such great energy and just love it. So, yep, we just wanted to highlight that. You could go ahead to the next. All right.
Let me jump in for just a second, Danielle. Say
Sure.
that when she flies the I can't remember which it's not a Cessna, but when she flies her aircraft, it is we're expecting it to be the first U.S. Crewed airplane, hydrogen powered airplane. So it's a very exciting development.
Yep, and thank you for that, Mike. And she's also a pilot. She just got her commercial license, and they're pretty much in stealth mode, but she's up to some big things, so I can't wait. And I remember they're doing something public in the summer in LA. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I definitely plan on being there. I want to say it's in June, so hopefully we'll get her to present soon and we can get more details. Mike, if you remember, please chime in. But yeah, she's doing big things, so super exciting. Great diverse team, kind of following the playbook like a startup should. So yeah, we just love her. Okay, next slide. And Anita, if you're here, definitely feel free to jump in and share a little something. You're more than welcome to unmute yourself. All right, so again, I said I'm gonna reiterate and reiterate and reiterate that the Vertical Flight Society has two hydrogen groups. It started with the H2EVTOL Council, where we were just learning everything that we didn't know and what we really needed to happen to make hydrogen powered flight a reality. And that really took off literally, and it grew so much momentum that we had. I call it a spinoff. We're a council, so we're not really a company, but it is kind of like a spinoff other group that just is focusing on the infrastructure. So that's the H2Aero team. And we were using the same logo. So a way to differentiate, if you get confused, is you'll see the H2EVTOL Council has one circle, and of course the hummingbird, who we call Hovey. Wait, is it Hovey? I think that's his name.
Yes,
their name.
Her name.
Her name. I was saying they. I thought they were like maybe non-binary, but her. I like it. She's a her. Okay, cool. So Hovey is the the hydrogen, and then the H2Aero team has two circles. So I screenshot this if you think you won't be able to keep them straight. If you're looking at being more involved on the aircraft side, then you'll want to come to the H2EVTOL Council. If you're looking at more of the infrastructure side, you might want to be more involved with the H2Aero team, but that's more of a project where this is sort of more of a learning and bringing everybody together. And I'll kind of break that down a little bit in a second.
And just, sorry, just one more comment on the H2EVTOL team. So it's looking at refueling and standards for the aircraft as well, but it's really just it's focused on that refueling aspect, but as much as the aircraft is necessary to develop the standards and whatnot. Whereas the council is looking at the holistic, the whole aircraft and the challenges for that.
Yep, exactly. And I always say, the reason even, and so you might be wondering, well, then why are we talking about airports on this session? It's really important that we look at for the aircraft and to really make the business case for it. We have to be looking at all of the aspects of it. So while the H2EVTOL team is looking at, standardizing things for the refueling, the H2EVTOL Council is looking at the entire ecosystem from, the hydrogen being produced, the transport, or is it made on site? All of these things play a factor. How is it stored? What form is it in? Is it liquid? Is it gaseous? And, what does that look like on the aircraft? And then how is it refueled? Is it capsules? Is it from a station, like a pump like this? And then, so that entire ecosystem really plays into making the business case. So while, the H2EVTOL Council group is focused on the aircraft, we need to be involved with all of those other pieces. Otherwise, we'd be paying way too much for a kilogram of hydrogen. So as long as we can stay close to the people that are producing it, and they're in the know on what we need, then we can sort of work that out to where we can get it to a price that makes sense, that all of us are going to want to participate in it, because that's one of the limiting factors is the cost of green hydrogen. So we want to have that ecosystem together. Next slide. Okay, so the H2EVTOL Council core principles. This is really important to us. Our credo is to provide an environment for all ages, gender identities, ethnicities, beliefs, and abilities, and anything else that we forgot to put on this. Everyone has a voice here. Everyone is welcome here. If you ever feel like you're not being heard or listened to or welcomed, please tell me, and we will address that. Our vision is to bring stakeholders together to fast track hydrogen to power vertical flight. And by stakeholders, I mean everybody, like I just said, from the hydrogen production, the way it's transport, the way it's stored on the aircraft, the fuel cells, the storage tanks, the way that it's refueled, and of course, the people that will be, the operators and or passengers that will be on these, everything. Our why is to realize a clean energy economy for advanced air mobility. Now, advanced air mobility is a very loose term for me at this point. And in fact, I've even said it might not even be just VTOL. I mean, we're, of course we're focused on VTOL, but advanced air mobility, it's just sort of everything that's kind of innovative and new that has to do, flying taxis, cargo delivery, package delivery, drones, flying taxis, and kind of everything in between. But I guess just unique use of electric aircraft. Who can join? Anybody who believes zero emission aviation is core to a clean energy economy. You do not have to have an aviation aerospace background. You do not have to have a hydrogen background. You do not have to have an engineering background. You just have to have an interest and a passion for decarbonizing aviation. We are the last transportation industry to decarbonize, and we need everybody to help us do this. One of the nice things about us being in such an innovative space is that we're all learning as we go. So if you're new to this group and you feel intimidated or out of your league. We were all there a year or 2 or 3 or 4 ago, and you'll catch up pretty quickly, because there's, we're just in such a new space. So please stay, even if it seems overwhelming. Next slide. I'm not sure what happened here. Luckily, I have this memorized. We're using a new program to do our PDFs. So all this slide said was that we meet the 3rd Mondays of the month, the same time for an hour and a half. We have a guest speaker or 2 every month. And with that, just go ahead and share Arturo's flyer, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely, Danielle.
Arturo, wait, well, I was going to read your bio, if you don't mind. Yes,
Absolutely.
I wanted to give you the proper introduction. It's so nice to see you. But I had the pleasure of meeting Arturo in January, and Mr. Garcia has been a U.S. and global airport management leader for over 20 years, combining experiences in airport operations, development, planning, and ground handling. This experience includes having worked for global airport operators such as Munich Airport and Anna, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Anna. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that next word. Ground handling, and again, another word. I will put it into my own words and say that I caught about the half end of Arturo's presentation at TVF in January, and I was extremely impressed, and I knew that we had to have him. And so without further ado, Arturo, welcome. And you may go ahead and start, and I'll pass it to you. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Danielle, Mike, and all the Vertical Flight Society team and the H2EVTOL Council. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you today. And it's very exciting for us at AFWORS to be able to share with you some ideas. And again, I mean, the main purpose of today's presentation is to be interactive and to generate discussion, questions, comments, and then work as a team. I think that's one of the key aspects over the last couple of years that through Danielle and the team, we've been able to accomplish, is that there has been a great rapport and a lot of momentum in those discussions and collaboration. So by all means, I have some slides, but feel free to use the chat to, raise your hand, anything that anybody would like to know or to clarify, or again, I mean, if we don't have a specific answer, we'll be able to follow up. And then again, I mean, it's a great opportunity for us and a great honor to be with you today. Let me share my screen. Just as Danielle mentioned, put together some slides. And again, the main purpose of the slides is just to have a guiding layout of the conversation today. By all means, we want this to be a conversation. And again, thanks for the introduction, Danielle. And I'm Arturo Garcia, Chief Operating Officer for AFWORS. I'm going to just maximize this. I will take note of the logos as you see here in the first page. They still, don't have the logo, the new of the council with just the one circle. But anyway, we'll make sure that we update that one if this presentation is going to be distributed. Just a quick introduction about AFWORS, who we are, what we have been doing, what are our core businesses. So we at AFWORS, we are an airport operator, private airport operator. We've been around for a long time. We started as a division of Pan American World Airlines back in 1927. This year is our 95th anniversary. By then, when Pan Am started, of course, most of you know Pan Am Of course, they were the pioneers in commercial aviation. There were still very few airport infrastructure capacity there, and they just had to manage their own way of providing that infrastructure and that support and that ground service. And that's what they did with the division that then with the years became Avports, formerly known as Pan Am World Services. Where you see there in the screen some of the sites where we've been active with different contracts and providing airport operations, maintenance and management services throughout the years. Moving to the next page. One thing that I wanted to mention is that through all these years, as you know, with Pan Am as Pan Am World Services, we've had a lot of experience as well managing vertical flight infrastructure and operations. Of course, I mean, you know, I'm sure you've seen pictures. Not sure if some of you will have experienced that operation from the Pan Am building in Manhattan that was operated by our former colleagues, and as well other infrastructure in New York and infrastructure at the airports related to vertical flight as well. Over the years, we've of course evolved into different ownership, and for the last 3 years, we are part of an infrastructure fund of Goldman Sachs. And in that slide right here, you see the locations where we are active at the moment. Our headquarters are in Dallas, Virginia, and we have a strong presence in the Northeast. You see there Albany Airport in New York as well. On behalf of the Albany County Airport Authority, we're operating and managing and maintaining the airport there on behalf of the county, as well operating both Stewart and Teterboro Airport on behalf of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, in Tweed, New Haven, in Connecticut, and as well in Long Island Republic Airport in Farmingdale. But as well, we have presence throughout the US. We are active in Gary, Indiana. We are also active in Detroit, in the North Terminal, in cooperation with our partners from CMP and Jacobs and Daniels, managing an airline consortium there. We're going to start very soon a contract in Mid-America Airport, partnering with the airport authority there. And in California, we are active in Moffett Field, operating on behalf of Planetary Ventures. As well, we're about to start an operation for the airline consortium in the Tom Bradley International Terminal in Los Angeles. Also active in Florida Everglades Airport, which is an airport that's going to be developed into a cargo airport during the next few years. We're already active there. And as well, I've been selected as the preferred bidder for the Puerto Rico regional airports. That's 7 regional airports there in the Puerto Rico island and other smaller islands. We will start operating and managing those ones on behalf of the Puerto Rico Port Authority. And these, I've already spoken about this, our presence in the US currently. And then just going to focus now on our sustainability and environmental strategy. And as you know, for airport operators, in particular for us, this has been a key component of our strategy for the last years, and it's getting more and more important top down in the organization, very aware of the implications in our society, in our operation, and in the way the stakeholders can support us, and we can support the stakeholders in achieving the carbon reduction goals that we all have. And we see this as a journey. It's not going to be, of course, as all of you know, something that happens overnight, but readiness needs to start today. And that's why we're here. That's why we really want to make sure that we start our journey towards readiness today, and we continue that together with the stakeholders in order to provide the framework for decarbonization. And again, it needs to start by providing the foundation. And for us, that foundation is starting by leveraging some opportunities that can be low-hanging fruit, that can be, opportunities that do not require big investments, but can provide already some significant impact in the operation. And that's focusing on the first stage on the ground vehicles and some of the building systems, focusing on how we can make those more sustainable by reducing the carbon emissions associated with those, and if possible, eliminate it. In the second step, and of course, the readiness needs to start now, and this is mostly the focus of this council and the teams that we're working with Vertical Flight Society, is to get ready and to provide that infrastructure framework for zero emission aircraft, to provide that readiness and to provide the ability for the operators of the sustainable aircraft and zero emission aircraft to be able to operate at the airports that we are active at, and of course to facilitate as well the industry adoption of standards, procedures, awareness, understanding of how this can happen, and to try to get that awareness and to get that readiness as soon as possible. So those early adopters, those early providers that are ready to start operating, they have already a place to operate in a economic and sustainable way, and of course in an efficient way as well. So that's the key focus for us in the conversations with most of you, and as well with the Vertical Flight Society members. I forgot to mention that we've been VFS members since the beginning of the year. Thank you for all the support to Mike and the team there. We, as Danielle mentioned, were in San Jose in January, really participating there and getting to know many of you. And of course, our commitment to get involved and to get more and more active in all the different initiatives is very clear. So kudos to the Vertical Flight Society for facilitating all this interaction and all this stakeholder coordination. Then we don't want to really leave out of the way like the longer term potential benefits of that strategy. And of course, we want to make sure that even if there will be a lot of plans, a lot of investment that will need to happen, at least we have a roadmap to provide a more resilient framework for power generation and distribution in the airport environments, and also dealing with fuel and dealing with the SAF and hydrogen and other elements that are providing that mix of different solutions to really make the vision of the zero emission flights possible. And that's something that we're still, of course, in early stages, but planning as well how we can provide those generating capabilities in the airport environment by providing renewable sources of power at the airport sites, and also partnering with other companies and entities to make sure that that independence from fossil fuels can really start happening as soon as possible. Again, this is a longer shot, but there are things that can be done today, and there are things that need to start being planned and coordinated today. And I've already covered this. More important than ever, regional airports are at the forefront of all the sustainable aviation developments. Why? And this is very clear. And for us, as we are mostly located and providing airport operations and management at regional airports, it's so important for us to realize the potential of regional airports in terms of providing that infrastructure ability for those areas in those regions, and to be able to provide the space as well to generate the power and the ability to create new opportunities for transportation, for air transportation, that before, with conventional aircraft powered by conventional fuels, was more difficult or didn't happen. We believe that electric aviation, zero emission aviation can put regional airports really at the forefront of the opportunity. And that's something that very clearly for us, strategically, it's very important. And we really want to showcase this to all of you. Of course, I'm sure you know, and you are very much aware of that NASA study and paper on regional air mobility that we totally support and embrace. And we've been already coordinating some activities there as well, trying to promote that awareness and promote the visibility of regional airports as places to really focus and invest and try to get that momentum into the sustainable aviation vision. I went the different way. Very good. So hydrogen. Now, this was like the overview, high level understanding of our strategy towards decarbonization. Why hydrogen is important for us? And number one is that we don't consider that there is one size fits all, only one solution that is going to provide the key. Is going to be a combination of different sources, of different solutions, of different technologies, as you all know very well. So this is not about which one is better, or I support this technology, or I support battery powered vehicles and I don't support hydrogen, or the other way around. No, there is room and there are use cases for all of these technologies, and we have to be aware of those and try to really embrace those discussions and that interaction from a very honest and objective point of view, whether we have, opinions, or whether, there is science from one side or from the other. At the end of the day, we really believe that there is a lot of potential and there is room for a lot of applications dealing with hydrogen for many reasons, but most important for us is the availability of the vehicles, and the fact that for some use cases, having the vehicle going through a charging cycle can provide a limitation in how we can operate with that vehicle, especially if those vehicles are subject to be ready anytime for emergencies, especially if those vehicles are very heavy and require quite a lot of power, and require as well that ability to provide almost round-the-clock operational service. So for us, this is very important. The second part that is very important, that we believe that hydrogen has a role, is more dealing with the longer-term visions of how, for the global overall aviation decarbonization, hydrogen can play a role for that mid-range, long-range, intercontinental flight ability. That we know that with battery powered aircraft, that's not the case. And we believe that by providing the foundational steps to have that framework already at the airports, by using ground vehicle fuel cell vehicles and other applications of hydrogen, this can pave the way to get ready for other future applications. But having said that, of course, there are use cases and there are vehicles that can be battery powered, that can be, perfectly fine for the airport environment. So we are not saying that it's just only hydrogen, but we very clearly say that hydrogen has a role. And again, I'm just always, please consider that I'm talking with the airport operator hat. Of course, for us, very important to provide that framework and that capacity for the aircraft and for the ability for the aircraft operators to really provide their service. And also, in addition, we really need to provide that operational service through vehicles. And as you know very well, we use a lot of vehicles at the airport, starting with light vehicles and also, mid-sized vehicles for anything related to operations, anything related to, surveillance, maintenance of runways, pavement, different elements, lighting, so on and so forth. And also, as you will know, heavier vehicles used for firefighting, used as well for snow removal, winter operations, mowing, and other ability as well of providing these vehicles. So there is a huge range of vehicles at the airport environment. And we believe that hydrogen, especially fuel cell powered vehicles, have a very important role to play and will be more and more ready. And even, with retrofit being able to be ready for the airport environment very soon. And that's something that we are really focusing a lot. I heard somebody unmuting. I don't know if there are any questions. Let me take a look at the chat. If there is already somebody that wants to ask a question. And please, Danielle, help me by all means if.
Yeah, somebody was asking where in Florida you said you had operations going.
We are supporting the Everglades International Airport in their development in order to provide the ability to, through the FAA privatization program, expand into a cargo airport that will transport perishable cargo, in particular flowers and other perishable products from Latin America to the US. And this is Everglades International Airport.
Awesome.
At the moment, we are just working in the team, providing all the operational readiness and design review and helping the developer team in order to get ready. There is a general aviation airport there that we are supporting, but that airport is still not capable of handling those flights with the cargo. But part of the project is to really turn that airport into that bigger, longer runway and all the cargo capacity to really be able to provide that environment for operators to provide that cargo connection between Latin America and North America.
Thank you for that answer. While you're on this slide, I have a quick question. This is Danielle. Something that we looked at in our white paper a couple years ago was, the price point driver, or is the transport. And I love it that I'm seeing solar panels at the airport. Have you all found that producing hydrogen at the airport is the best way to make it feasible? Are you looking at other, transporting it in from other places? What are your thoughts on that?
That's an excellent question, Danielle. Well, the answer to that is that we don't know yet. For now, and for the pilot projects that we are preparing, we have not considered yet to produce hydrogen at the airport environment. That's something that we'll be very interested in exploring further. We've not been able to conduct any in-depth analysis of all the overall cost structure for that, but we'll definitely would like to get more in detail with that as we go to be more familiar with all the different production and generation and so on and so forth. But for now, very important for us in that journey, in that path, what we've chosen to do is to partner with a hydrogen provider that is already generating green hydrogen and transporting it to the different dispensers that they have. This company, I'm sure that some of them are already in the call. It's called Revo. And by partnering with them, we really want to make sure that there are synergies because we believe that at the end of the day, it will be very difficult, especially at the beginning, to really provide that infrastructure just at the airport environment when there are some limitations there and there is a lot of planning to do, and usually it takes very long. I mean, when I say very long, it's like years to provide that. Whereas we can start by getting familiar and by partnering with those producers that are ready. And of course, at the end of the day, we need to start, right? And we really want to make sure that we can learn and we can get familiar with the technologies, with the distribution, with the opportunities and the challenges as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think in the near term, you kind of have to work with people that are already doing it. But something that we definitely need to chat offline about is that that business case and making that hydrogen on site is something we've been looking at for years. So yeah, let's definitely follow up on that. There's some more questions in the chat. Let's see, and if whoever's asking the questions, feel free to unmute and ask them, and otherwise I can read them. If I don't hear you unmute, I will go ahead and ask Matt. I'm going to say Matt because what additional safety measures would have to be in place for using hydrogen to power all equipment on the airfield to include the firefighting vehicles?
Yeah, that's an excellent question as well, and something that there's still not a lot of information that we know, especially because there are not many cases, as much as we're aware, none of that vehicle, especially for firefighting, to be powered by a fuel cell. Something that we are again very interested. We are really taking a look at safety first. And of course, making sure that there is already that element of awareness and readiness embedded there. But by all means, this will be the first critical analysis and component there from the safety point of view of, what are the real issues and challenges. We know that what we've seen, and I mean, there are a lot of publications out there and some recommendations, especially for other industries, on what are the key challenges and the hazards related to managing and handling hydrogen. But of course, I mean, at the specific case of the airport environment and that use case of firefighting truck, this is still something that needs to be deeply analyzed and explored, of course, in coordination with regulators, the FAA, and so on and so forth. But again, that's a very clear use case for that size of vehicle, for the need to have that vehicle ready and available, and to have a very intense power need in some potential emergencies. It's really something that, when compared with other potential alternatives, it's more challenging to provide that environment. That by all means, that doesn't mean that it's possible to have fire truck powered by batteries, an electric fire truck powered by batteries, but it's just have a different set of challenges. And of course, again, I mean, knowing lithium and the fast charging and some of the issues related to that in terms of fire code and so on and so forth, is just, you know, a way of making sure that we have the right decisions and work together with some of the providers, with the truck manufacturers and some of the retrofitters as well, to make sure that we have a very robust case from the safety point of view.
Arturo, I hope you don't mind. This is Cliff Lee. If I can chime in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the safety director for AvPorts. Prior to coming to AvPorts, I used to work for a company called Gas Technology Institute, and we did research with hydrogen and fuel cells. So I have a little bit of understanding about some of those challenges. Certainly not an expert, had quite a few years experience of safety, but hydrogen is kind of unique because of its physical property. First of all, it will burn with a flame without color. It has a huge explosive range from roughly 2% to about 96%, which is far and away the largest explosive range that I've ever encountered, especially compared to natural gas or to gasoline. But there are organizations that address this. I think that it's just a matter of coordinating with them, looking at the technology that's out there. There are hydrogen flame detectors. There's an organization called the Center for Hydrogen Safety. They have quite a bit of information. So I don't think it's insurmountable, but one thing that I have learned in safety, when you're working with materials that are extremely dangerous, and hydrogen is extremely dangerous, not to the point that it can't be used, obviously, but it is being more proactive with the safety. So back when I was working for GTI, we used to do process safety analysis and preliminary safety analysis on every new R&D project that came up, particularly those with hydrogen, and found it to be very beneficial. So going forward, there's resources out there. So I don't see this as an issue that can't be overcome, but it will definitely, I think, across the board requiring an increase in the knowledge base. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Cliff. That's fantastic. Thank you. Just taking another look at the chat now. I managed to open it while I was sharing my screen, so bear with me. Yeah.
Do you have more slides or?
I do. Yes. Sure. Sorry.
So let's go ahead and keep moving along,
yes.
and then I'll keep an eye on the chat.
No, perfect. Fantastic. So continue. There are some recent guidance that is very interesting, and just wanted to point out to all of you in case you have not been able to check yet. Last year, Airports Council International issued that piece of guidance called Integration of Hydrogen Aircraft into the Air Transport System and Airport Operations and Infrastructure Review. Very interesting document. I will recommend those of you that have not checked to take a look at it. I will distribute as well the link for those of you that have not been able to. Also, very recently, an Airport Cooperative Research Program report 236 was issued, talking about preparing your airport for electric aircraft and hydrogen technologies. And this is, again, another excellent document for airport operators and all the different ecosystem of stakeholders working at the airport to really take a look at, very thorough, and really pointing out some of those challenges and the gaps and really the need for coordination, cooperation, and to answer many of the questions that we all have in a coordinated way. And of course, not reinventing the wheel, taking a look at industries and cases as well. Cliff was mentioning, you know, experiences from other industries that we can, of course, make sure that we integrate. Just have some extracts from especially the ACI publication that I just wanted to share very quickly with you, and then we will open up to some case studies, which I think are very important as well. So again, I mean, looking at the long term, it's very clear, and I think we are not discovering anything new, and especially in this team and in this council, that hydrogen really plays a role. And there is a role for every stakeholder to play, and in particular for the airport to play to get ready for this. And you see there, they consider very clearly in this publication some recommendations and steps for airports to really take a look into the opportunity of producing hydrogen on site. So this is something, again, back to your point, Danielle, and some of the questions there are something very interesting, and there is a very high level analysis of those costs in that document as well, that it will be nice to compare with some of the work that some of you have already done in that area. And of course, different speed of development and regulation and funding in different parts of the world, but there is already an understanding that in many, if not all the regions in the world, there are already developments happening, and this is gaining traction. We know, of course, some of the cases in Japan, being a pioneer in fuel cell technologies, also in Europe, and of course in the US as well. And one interesting metric as well is that the US has the largest hydrogen fuel cell road vehicle fleet in the world. So again, I mean, it's something that we know that there is already, even if it's still very early stages, there is some traction already, and this is going to develop more and more in the months, in the years to come. Some of the challenges here in terms of transporting hydrogen within the airport, and this is something, again, very important for us as we analyze what are the investment required in infrastructure, and comparing as well the different challenges between regional airports with more centralized facilities with footprint that is more manageable. If you compare it with other big hubs and big facilities where they have already an existing infrastructure in place for distributing fuel through hydrants, and all that complexity related to having a fixed infrastructure for that versus tracking the different loads of hydrogen to the end users. So again, I mean, something very interesting, and some other considerations there. In terms of safety, of course, a lot of considerations there. Many of the things that Cliff was already referring to are already addressed there. Of course, always a difference between the liquid hydrogen and the gas form, which of course has a totally different way of being handled and managed and distributed and operated, and different hazards as well in terms of manipulating it, and something to bear in mind as well, because it's crucial for us. I mean, this is like the number one. I cannot tell you, and later when we go a little bit more into detail of the use cases and some of the examples, this has been, of course, key in all the discussions and some of the permit related applications and challenges there as well. But safety, I mean, top of mind. Some case studies. Apologies for the wordy slide. I didn't realize that I was going to get this wordy. There is one airport in Japan many of you will have heard of, Kansai International Airport. This airport already participated in this publication from ACI. They have already developed pilots for fuel cell vehicle applications, and also the supply chain of hydrogen and different generating and distribution plans to be ready in the years to come. So by far, this is like a mirror for all the airport owners and operators in the world, and as well the ecosystem, to really take a look at and to learn from what the colleagues at Kansai have already achieved and what they are planning and how they are interacting with the different communities and with the stakeholders. Extremely interesting, and I can provide more details as well in additional information. And here, apologies for the quality of this diagram, but again, just showing all the analysis and study of how to be able to use those different use cases from now, early adoption use cases, to future readiness and planning and ability to provide that in the future in coordination with many of the stakeholders. As you see, there are some applications that are very clear and that we are taking a look at, with ground support equipment, with buses and shuttle buses, and with other lighter vehicles as well. And the next case study that we would like to share with you is what we are planning, and what we have already started our cooperation with Revo in order to provide pilot and test bed for fuel cell vehicles and a hydrogen dispenser that in this case is being planned to be provided at New Haven Airport in Connecticut. We have already different phases there. We are, of course, getting into all the requirements related to permits, related to the working together in the supply with our partners from Revo, providing as well those vehicles that in principle will be 2 vehicles to provide that operational support for the land side. In this case, our scope is going to be limited to the land side of the airport, still not in the restricted area, because that has additional complexities, as most of you know, in terms of approvals and in terms of other requirements to consider there. But again, we want to make sure that we can get familiar, have something in place. And even if it's just the building block, the foundation, we believe that this is the way forward, at least to get more and more familiar with the technology, with the challenges, with the opportunities, and with how we can make this not only for our operations, but also for stakeholders, for airlines, for other partners as well. We have as well planned to be able to retrofit one of these shuttle buses with a fuel cell kit in order to make it zero emissions. And that's also part of the plan. And I will just close with this. And I share with you as well, those of you that were in San Jose, this vision and this project that we have as well started still from the preliminary phases together with our partners from Revo, in order to provide a demonstrator of fuel cell general aviation aircraft that can be retrofitted using a fuel cell kit. We are at the moment looking for sponsors and partners to develop the project and to materialize it. Still going into the planning phases. But of course, for those of you that are interested, please let us know. Together with the Revo team, we really believe that this is something very exciting. And according to some of the aspects that Danielle was mentioning at the beginning of the call with Anita and other players, we believe that in terms of the image and in terms of providing that, showcase, it is something very important as well for us, because this is going to be a motivation for us to be ready as well, not just for the ground vehicles, but also for potential general aviation aircraft at the first stage, and then hopefully very soon other applications as VTOLs and so on and so forth. And again, one thing very important I have not mentioned here, and there's still no specific plan, but for us, one very critical use case of hydrogen at the airport environment is the provision of emergency power. As you know, our airports today, they have the requirement of having emergency power generators, usually powered by diesel. In some other cases, some stakeholders and some colleagues are investigating as well with the provision of battery packs together with solar panels. We really believe that this is a way hydrogen can play a role here in order to provide that independence from that source of fossil fuel as can be that emergency generator. And this is something that, again, taking a look into the potential on-site production and the potential use on-site of some of the applications, this can be something very interesting to achieve that independence. There is one other airport as well that I should mention in the UK, Teesside International Airport. They have provided already a very similar pilot as the one that we're planning in New Haven. It's very funny because we were not in touch, and it was before we had announced it and they had announced it, but you know, they saw the same opportunity and had the same vision and the same idea. And this is something that proves again that other airports are already interested and are already taking action in order to leverage the opportunities of hydrogen for the airports and for the aviation community. And that's it from me, Danielle and Mike and team. In conclusion, for us, we would really like to show our support into the vision to this team, making sure that we can communicate and we can work together with the aviation stakeholders to make zero emission flights a reality. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity today. I hope it was informative. And of course, I mean, we can follow up. I'll be very interested in get your thoughts, additional questions, anything that we can learn as well from each other, any other examples that you've heard of that we didn't know. Again, I mean, this is just great to create that sharing culture among the team and making sure that we are all working together and aware of what each other are doing. But thank you so much. Over to you, Danielle, and we can follow up with some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arturo. Great presentation. Really loved all of it. And I couldn't agree more with what you said. This culture and group that we've created, you know, we have so many competitors and partners and, you know, just this pre-competitive space where we all learn from each other is just a really cool thing. There are several questions in the chat. For those of you that would rather ask them, so I don't butcher them, feel free to unmute and ask them. Yes, I agree. John says very comprehensive, Arturo. Let's see. Toyota, Charlie, do you want to unmute? Charlie's done some presentations on safety. Do you know? I don't know if you've met Charlie Myers yet. Fantastic resource. There he is. Cool.
So a couple great presentation, Arturo. Thoroughly enjoyed it on that. Thank you. I just offered a couple of things when you talked about emergency power and such for airports. Airports have buses and things that support that. And Toyota in Japan has been building fuel cell powered buses with power takeoff so that the buses that would be moving people could actually be used as portable gensets for upwards of a couple of 100 kilowatts of power if you need it for that. And the only other comment which I put in the chat was when we talk about liquid hydrogen at airports right now, great that you mentioned the operation over in Japan for what they're doing. That's a broad scale one. FedEx actually operated a smaller one as part of a Department of Energy project at Memphis International Airport, where they had delivered liquid hydrogen to the airport, and they had it was a station supporting a half a dozen baggage tractors that were being operated by FedEx there. And the dispensing of the hydrogen was at 350 bar going into it, and the battery packs that were used by the ground support equipment were by Plug Power on that. My only comment, we talk about the flammability rating of hydrogen, and yes, it's a broad one, but frequently the conversation omits that hydrogen rises at 45 miles an hour and can become non-flammable fairly quickly. And some flame studies that have been done demonstrate that you could actually sever the cord during a dispense cycle of a forklift truck at 350 bar, and the velocity of the hydrogen is such that there's a lot of turbulence. So roughly in the 8 to 10 feet range from that cut is when the hydrogen becomes non-flammable. So there are a lot of different characteristics about hydrogen that need study, and it needs to be paid attention to. But just some other side comments on there about rate of rise. And when I was thinking about the airport aircraft study that was there, thoughts that crossed my mind is hydrogen is buoyant and it is subject to the wind. And so if there's a lot of wind at airports and the wind is going to blow the hydrogen in certain directions as it rises, so that and it's a cold heat, the other part of it. So it may not be that the flame is at ground level or that the flammability is at ground level. It's going to be a higher level than that. So certainly that's something to be studied and looked at. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, Charlie. Would anybody else like to unmute and ask a question? I'm scrolling through the chat. I have a couple big announcements before we hang up, but I also want to give everyone a chance to ask your questions. Don't be shy. We're a very chill group, and there's no such thing as a dumb question or a bad question. Thank you for providing the links. Whoever did that, Chris, thank you for providing those links.
Can I ask one more question? Actually ask a question. Arturo, do you see the model of ownership different at the airports that you're working, the regional airports? Ground support equipment typically is airline owned at the passenger terminal level, but as you move into the commercial side of the airports, do you see the ownership model and the influence changing on who's going to be buying and acquiring the equipment?
Absolutely, Charlie, and that's an excellent question. We've seen the trend in other regions of the world, in particular, I mean, the UK, in Europe, in Asia, of going towards shared vehicles and vehicle as a service solutions that really maximize that usage of those vehicles and provide the ability to make investments and planning in a holistic way with different stakeholders, rather than just having each one of the operators managing, buying, acquiring, and then having the vehicle sitting there when they are not using it. But then you have many cases twice the number of vehicles that are needed. So this is something that in the US, there are not many cases of this yet. There are some, especially in those airports that are very constrained in terms of space. So there is no space to park ground support equipment. So there is usually one provider that is just being the sole source provider of that ground support equipment and service. And then, not every airline has their own equipment, but there is just one that has their equipment, but not many. I mean, we actually provide that service in one of the airports that we operate on behalf of the Westchester County. This is Westchester County Airport. We are already providing that ground support equipment, and we're really there in a very good position to make decisions together with the county in terms of having that transition into zero emission fleet. But in other airports where it's traditionally each airline, the one that has that ability to make decisions for their own equipment, it is more challenging, but we see a lot of potential there, especially as we turn into making plans and specific strategies to provide these. But again, I mean, this is something, Charlie, the most interesting thing for me would be really to get deep into the business case and be able to showcase the economical value of doing that versus just having each partner having their own equipment. And that's something that we're getting much more aware and trying to showcase this. And this is another element in the partnership that we have with our colleagues from Revo, that we want to make sure that we can provide that solution that can be adopted, so then we can help, or other parties can help, to make that transition to a zero emission fleets by having a standardized fleet already operating at that airport environment.
I could not agree more. That business case is really where my focus is, this year. Kim, so nice to see you in the chat. She asked, Arturo, can you repeat the name of the airport that you talked about in the UK?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to post a link in the chat as well. It is Teesside International Airport, and the three-letter code is Mike Echo. I will send you a link to an article, so you can take a look as well.
Thank you. And then Benjamin Marin, good to see you, says in the slide titled "The Role of Hydrogen in Aviation Decarbonization," the chart shows 25% of hydrogen aviation in use by 2050. What is the makeup of the SAF in green? I actually was wanting to ask you something about that as well. So he says, what is the makeup of the SAF in green? The majority of forecasted aviation energy is, I think he means, is it just a mix of all other fuels? Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Does that make sense? If I butchered it, feel free to ask it yourself, Ben.
Yeah, feel free. And I will need to look at the details of that specific study that I can share with you. I don't have right from the top of my mind all the answers to that, but I can provide you the specific analysis. But please go ahead, Benjamin.
And could somebody, maybe Dom or Rishav, go ahead and get all of the links in the chat? I think we can access the chat afterwards, but I'm not sure. So if somebody could just capture all of those links. If anybody else, we have time for one more question. And then I have some big announcements. So if anybody else wants to go ask the last question, go ahead. Otherwise, I've got a question. Unmute yourself or type it as fast as you can in the chat. I'll start asking mine. Feel free to interrupt me if you want to ask yours. On that topic of SAF, is Avports looking at like a trajectory, sort of like it starts with SAF and then it moves to hydrogen and then, I don't know, moves to, nuclear or something like that? Or are you just focusing on hydrogen? I've seen a couple of different, paths of how hydrogen will sort of, come online. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Again, Danielle, actually our path is parallel. We are already working with SAF. There is SAF already being delivered in Moffett field, and we manage the field farm there in Moffett. And also we have a project in Westchester Airport in coordination with the Westchester County to provide that capacity and that ability to store and to distribute SAF as well for different players. In particular, there is a strong demand from the corporate aviation, but also, of course, from the commercial aviation. But as you know, I mean, this is something that it's already here. There are challenges, in particular, not discovering anything new in terms of the availability and the capacity to generate and to secure the source and the supply of SAF.
Mhm.
But it's something that is by all means playing a big role, and we address that. So, and again, I mean, there are different use cases, different manufacturers, different opportunities for all of those, battery, hydrogen, SAF, and the ones that you mentioned, Danielle, I will come in the future. We'll of course keep an eye, but now these three are the ones that we know that are going to play a role. We know that we need to provide that readiness in some states and level, and at least start coordinating and thinking, what the other members of the community are already thinking, and be able to provide a framework at the airport environment. That's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, cool. So I will just move on to the last few announcements. And I was hoping Amanda Simpson would still be on. Thank you again, Arturo, for that fantastic presentation. Also, maybe we can get Revo for a future presentation. Would love to hear from them. So maybe you could make that introduction for me. I'd love that. Thanks. So I was hoping Amanda Simpson would still be on for this. As Mike mentioned, we have Forum 78 coming up in May, and that's the Vertical Flight Society's largest event or biggest event of the year. And we do an award ceremony breakfast. And this year, if you noticed when I was highlighting Anita earlier, the reason I highlighted Anita is, to really highlight women in this space. And, for the first time, we're seeing women being CEOs, and not just, cis het women, but also transgender women. And to take a line from Bruce Holmes, and I just love this, somebody I consider a mentor and somebody I look up to, is, leave the politics out when you come into the door, or when you come into the Zoom or this group, leave the politics at the door. And so, there's nothing to do with left or right, but it's just a place to embrace brilliant minds of all types. And so what that brings back to Forum 78 is that I nominated Martine Rothblatt for the Paul E. Hoyter Award, and she won. And for those of you who do not know who Martine Rothblatt is, Google her. You will be mind blown. She's something out of anytime I'm around her, I feel like I've been teleported into a science fiction utopian world. The things that woman has accomplished are just mind blowing. And so she will be there to receive that award. You do have to register. I bring that up to say Martine Rothblatt is an advocate for transgender women, and so is Amanda Simpson. And so I actually wanted to highlight Amanda Simpson because she was also at the H2EVTOL event, but I couldn't find her slides. So I just think that is really important to say something to that. And thank you all. Thank you, men. This is in no way a men bashing thing. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it weren't for the wonderful men that participate in this group. But for 2 years I was just about the only woman in here, but thanks to men like Mike Hirschberg and Bruce Holmes, and I mean there's so many that have supported me and really been advocates. So yes, in no way is this anti-male space. We want to be accepting and loving of all people. Okay, so next we created a survey to really gauge and Rishav Dom, if you could go ahead and pop that link into the chat one more time. It's to get to know our audience better and provide and improve the content that we're delivering at these lunch and learns, I guess what we're calling them. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to fill out. We're improving it as we go. It used to take longer. If you were at the last meeting, we tried to do live polls. That was kind of a disaster. So we've moved that to a Google form. So yeah, somebody please post that in the chat, and we would greatly appreciate you filling that out. It will really help us. Next month, May, we have Plug Power. They have, Plug Power. It's so funny because every time I go looking for somebody that's like a top talent in aviation, and I go hunting for them, it always converges to Plug Power. Plug Power, I don't know who's doing their recruiting, but I would love to meet them because they know how to recruit some good people. So we'll have some new folks from Plug Power speaking. And then in July, I believe we will have Doosan, which I'm super excited about. Been trying to get them for about a year. I don't think we have anybody booked for June yet. And if we do, and I'm forgetting because I don't have the schedule pulled up and you're on the call, please feel free to speak up. But I think Revo might be a good fit for June. I'd have to look at the schedule. And I think that concludes the announcements. Be on the lookout for some news coming up and lots of exciting things. Mike, if I missed anything, feel free to jump in. Dominique or Rishabh, please, you know what? I bet I have that survey. Yes, I do. Okay, I just posted the survey link.
Oh,
what'd you say?
I sent it out. Did you not receive it? It might have been.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Whoops, I sent it accidentally just to you. Okay, so there's the survey. It would be invaluable if you all could take that survey. Again, thank you, Arturo. Thank you, Dominique and Rishabh, for coming together and pulling strings behind the scenes. And thanks to all the participants. I continue to be impressed with this group. Thanks again, everybody. Have a fantastic week and see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.